Hello, everyone. I would like to introduce one personality who has been in this industry but disappeared for a short period and is back again. It's his second innings. Welcome, Mr. Krishna Mohan, to the second innings of the cleaning industry.
Thank you very much, Mona.
And it's a pleasure, and it has always been a pleasure. Though you were out for some time, it was always, we connected with something or the other. And you have been a great guide for Clean India Journal as well. And in the last 2 days, we have been in and around Coimbatore, and we've been seeing how this industry is growing. It's really fantastic. How did you, identify that this place is where you need to settle?
A good question. The Coimbatore has been my hometown. Of course, I was out of Coimbatore for 5 years in between on a different assignment. When the ISO 9000 era crept into India, I was one of the responsible persons for all India calibration equipment setup person. Anyway, Coimbatore always has been my hometown, so I know in and about of all the industries or people in the industries. So that's one of the reasons why I am not getting out of Coimbatore.
Right. So why is it that today we see so many cleaning equipment manufacturers? We even met so many, even people who are making components on their own. And there are bigger machines. We saw, extrusion machines. We have seen vacuum cleaners. We have seen industrial vacuum cleaners. It's like a whole set of machines that has already come up and that is manufactured in India.
Very true. The machines which you saw in the last 2 days, especially the industrial vacuum cleaners, in my previous regime, I have visited a couple of very important brands in Italy, like to cite a name was Delphine, another name was Sibilia. And we tried to manufacture them in my earlier company, which I was working for about 20 years ago. But it was not a simple or easy work, those type. But recently, when I started browsing through, I found not one or two, but at least closer to a dozen companies in Coimbatore alone manufacturing similar range of equipments. I took the pains of visiting few of them on my own, telling them that who I was in the past and I'm interested to see what they are. And I was surprised to see they were not competing with each other because they had their own client list. They were branding for somebody, they were exporting to somebody, but everybody were comfortable. Now, won't this say that everybody will get prompted to be in this line? I'm just going to sit for an example for only one category called industrial vacuum cleaners. Mm-hmm. But if you see a range of cleaning equipment which India needs, it'd be few hundreds. So tomorrow I wouldn't be surprised that a lot of companies will start off with different types which India needs or South India needs or East India needs. Because India is such a large, diverse country, every topography, every geography will have different type of machines needed.
True. And when we are talking about, Coimbatore getting into so much of manufacturing, we also saw that even the smallest components that we require, except for one or two, is actually manufactured here.
Yes. The fact remains is that there are plenty of, I would say almost 1 million small-scale industries which manufactures parts. Now, where these parts gone to? Coimbatore has been the inventor and the leader of manufacturing motor pumps, pump sets, wet grinders, and of course textile machinery. The world's number one textile machinery manufacturer is in Coimbatore. So, all these industries had trained up and these small companies who were supplying to them had sustained this of high quality because all these pumps or motors or the textile machines are not only used by the Indian manufacturers, exported worldwide. Talking about worldwide, the textile machinery is exported back to Germany or Switzerland, which is the hub of textile machineries. Sort of. So you can understand that how high level quality has to get integrated into the parts that need to be manufactured. So, and these companies have been there for generations. And they all also, the following generations are diversifying, expanding and going on. So Coimbatore is now ranked in the South Indian map as one of the leading engineering in the city for light to medium engineering goods. We don't have any heavy engineering good manufacturers in India like BHL or BEML or nothing like that. Anything to light to medium engineering goods, Coimbatore is the place.
True. And I think you have a lot of engineering colleges here, and you're having the right kind of talent and the skill pool that you require to, get into becoming a manufacturing.
Yes, of course. There are a couple of colleges in Coimbatore which are world ranked. They are all, interlinked with several universities in the EU and the US. That they have student exchange program going on, and it's unless you have a 99.99% mark, it's very difficult to get a seat in these colleges also. And almost 30 to 40% overseas students also start coming in here. And these colleges do not just stop with education; they have their own industrial institutes, followed by hospitals. So it's a chain of establishments what they have. So these institutions' presence really inculcate a lot of brainy people who turn out to be good entrepreneurs in the city itself. The Indian cleaning industry started in the early 90s. And I would say I had the privilege of being one of the first members to be in this industry when it kicked off in the early 90s. At that time, there was absolutely not much of a market or people who were in this industry. And slowly, India started moving in a very small way, in a very slow pace into this industry. So the players, both in the manufacturing side or dealership side or purchasing side, are pretty much less. There were only hardly one or two companies who were there in the market. Fortunately, one of the companies in India started manufacturing this with an European collaboration, and I happened to be a part of this company as well in a very senior position. But we had very tough times to go through. I'm talking about the era of there was no mobile phones, there was no computing laptops, there was no infrastructure, there was not much of mobility, of transport, and so on, many more. And to add up all this, there was no market. There was no competent manpower to handle this. There was no competent dealers to handle this. This was a very, very tough period for us when we started. But slowly, one by one, we took up the challenge in a phased manner in terms of first recruiting people, training them up to the core which is possible, and then putting them in the field, working along with them, and then starts the next problem of reluctancy of customers to buy which they feel like high cost equipments. I'll give you a simple comparison of a customer is comparing with a broom which is costing less than 100 rupees and a machine which is costing 10,000 rupees. That was the situation when we started off in the early stage. And then how to change this phenomenon was a big challenge for us. The only way to make them understand it is to how to make them understand the era of mechanized methods. And then we had to pass through. Like old traditional way of women making dough was manual. Now it's machines. And then there was similar more appliances which came in too. And then we applied the same situation for the cleaning equipments as well. And that's how our demonstration techniques changed. So selling a machine was replaced by selling the concept, selling the techniques, and slowly this started taking pace. But I would say that the pace was pretty much very slow. We could only start with Coimbatore, and south we could establish Chennai, Bangalore, and slowly moved on to Bombay, Delhi. And by the time everything was set out, it was almost like 10 years to 15 years. By the time we had only a dozen branch offices throughout India. However, since we had a nice collaborator, what we could do was to reach out international clients. And that's where selling was not a big deal, but the quality was a very big deal. Apparently, we could succeed that as well. Most of the companies in Coimbatore, who are the final product manufacturers, do not manufacture the entire components by themselves, regardless of the product. Same as the situation here in Coimbatore companies also. So we had competent, good quality parts supplying sub-suppliers. That made a big difference. And today Coimbatore slowly in the last 20, 30, 40 years has become excellent component manufacturers, excellent sub-assembly manufacturers, excellent product manufacturers in a nutshell. So this is how the past went through. And then slowly, one by one, the other brands started entering. When they started entering, most of the people made mistakes of accepting a brand internationally a good quality. It is not like that. For example, a brand A, which is very successful in the Middle East, is a complete failure in India. A brand B, which is very successful in India, is totally miserable in the Far East. So what is competent for the Indian market has to be designed first. This came the second era, the second stage. So slowly, one by one, the brands started coming in, but none of them ventured into manufacturing in India. They all tried to only import into India, find distributors and dealers, and then start selling. But what happened was the cost of the equipments were skyrocketing. The level of sales in India was not to the level of what their expectancy was, for the simple reason of the price factor. Number two was the service factor. Service in the sense, there could be competent servicemen, but lack of spare parts. There could be spare parts available in another brand, but lack of competent servicemen. Then comes the consumables. Spares is totally different from consumables. See, in India, you will find plenty of people who are ready to invest for a product, regardless of the price. But they are more concerned about the running and maintenance costs. Running and maintenance costs decided by consumables. What happens if a brush wears out? What happens if a squeegee wears out? How much is the investment I need to do every year for this? This carries a lot. So slowly we found that brushes and squeegees indigenization started slowly. So that was a good point of indigenization of Indian manufacturing of parts. But that was not machines. A few years later, we could find some companies are starting to make some machines, but that was not the total range. It could be only one or two range. So that's how it was slowly on. And for different reasons, I had to quit this company to divert into a different line. And that's how I gave a gap. But I was closely monitoring because I have enough friends both in India and overseas who are still my close friends, and they always keep communicating with me and visiting. I either visit them or they visit me. So I was always more informative, kept informed of all the progress which is going on in the industry. Later, I could see that the present government of India had done a tremendous work of like Make in India concept, stoppage of any imports when it is possible to be made in India. And now to cut a long story short, the BIS coming into effect. So this all drives into only one concept called that Indian manufacturers have to wake up. And the industry is going to open up. So that told me, now you should come back. You should jump into. And I find most of my ex-colleagues have all started being on their own, on their foot. So I joined one of these companies, which is Suvidh. And the main point which is concerned here is Suvidh is exclusively a marketing company. We are not any manufacturers. But we are all interlinked with manufacturers, and these manufacturers are all our ex-colleagues only. So this makes a big difference. And as we predicted, the market is opening, the zones are opening, much more matured kind of acceptance level into the market is coming up. People are not talking about brooms and all that. We find that people who are in the fray in the facility management are all qualified, highly paid people, which means they get a recognition today, which was missing in the previous years. Which means the cleaning and the cleaning allied products and the cleaning allied people are also considered to be one of the most important people which the country needs. So hoping that India will gear up soon to be one of the leading manufacturers of cleaning equipment, which is there in our conference. We are in this situation.
Right. And this is possibly the biggest indication that the world needs to know that India is actually turning into a major manufacturing hub for cleaning equipment. Thank you.
I just want to add upon that in less than 2 to 5 years, I am sure that cleaning equipments exports from India will be substantial, and I'm sure that more than 50% will be from Coimbatore alone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.